1, 2, 3.
Sunday dinners. Hey, oh, hey. Sunday dinners. Hey, oh, hey. Sunday dinners. Hey, oh, hey. Sunday dinners.
Okay. All right. And clap. Okay. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sunday Dinners. This is a podcast where we gather around something common. Do you know whenever, and this actually just happened this past Sunday, do you know whenever you have like a Sunday dinner?
You have
Whenever
to be
you-
that person.
Okay, when
What's wrong
you
with you, Brian?
when you have Sunday dinners and then you just talk and then kind of like anything comes out, anything goes. This is what this podcast is supposed to feel like, and it's specifically for people who have given up on church but not on God, and we just have conversations around things that like maybe block us from Jesus. And so at the end of this, it is not about controlling the conversation. It is about having empathy for each other. That means for all of you who struggle with control, you want this podcast to come to a conclusion. It probably won't. So it is a
Warning.
it is an open conversation, and that is on purpose. And so let's start. Let's just say who we are again in this podcast. So further down, who we got?
I'm always first. My name is Ryan. I am the producer of this podcast. I like health and sports and food.
Oh yeah.
As long as it doesn't have calories in it.
No, I'm not. It's not calories, Maria. Another podcast.
Sorry, as long as it doesn't have taste.
Another podcast.
As long as it doesn't have
Yeah,
taste.
as long as it tastes really bland. Like if you were to just go in your backyard and pick up the first thing and try it. As long as it tastes like that. Solid.
See? That's you. I am Chantel. I am in community service. Mom, wife, lifing. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Doing it well too.
Doing it well, and she
Doing
is
it great,
going to
Chantal.
have a baby tomorrow.
Yep.
So
That's what it looked like.
yeah,
That's what it
That's what it
feel
feels
like.
like.
too.
On my far right, who do we got?
Okay, I am Maria. I'm the associate pastor at UCity, the church.
Mafia.
And I
Oh,
like
oh,
food.
are you
I
sure
like
about
food.
that?
I like food with
Church?
I like food with carbohydrates and taste. So I'm Italian.
She's Italian.
Italian.
They can cook.
Pasta and
Really
wine are
well.
in our food pyramid over it. So I don't know what goes on over there.
Actually, I do love Maria's food.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yes, she makes great food.
As long as I leave all the things out, we're good.
I am Pastor T, and I love playing basketball. I am a creative by nature, and I am also a pastor of UCity, the church. And we are a multi-ethnic church. The reason why I'm pointing that out is because if you hear a beeping sound, a continuously going off, there's a joke. It's like, how do you know that you are in a black person's house? Beep. When you hear the smoke detector constantly, means that you are.
Oh,
there we
it
go.
is.
That means that you are in a black person's house. Well, this is Maria's house.
It's my house.
And she is always
That's a
welcome
whole nother
to the
conversation,
cookout.
bro.
You know what I'm saying? She's just becoming more and more like us. You know what I mean? But I saved the best for last. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest that I am excited to have this conversation with her. But Allie, tell us. Okay. Yeah. Tell us who you is.
I'm Allie.
Good. So good.
I'm a wife to Chase, who is the greatest human alive, in my opinion. And I have 2 boys that I'm also obsessed with. Not Chase, Cole and Miles. And Miles is our most recent one, who was born
Yesterday.
morning.
Feels like yesterday.
Born this morning.
Almost 4 weeks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Allie just had a baby yesterday, and she's on this podcast, and so it is amazing. It is amazing. And Miles is how old?
He'll be 4 weeks tomorrow,
Okay,
I believe. Yeah.
4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
4 weeks ago. Well, congratulations, and thank you for joining us. Wait, first, let's make sure her mic is it far
Is it okay where it
enough,
needs to
Ryan? Do you have good audio?
I turned her up, but
Okay.
I'll probably see if you can get
Okay.
it a little bit. And you can turn it where it's like not pointing up as
Yep.
straight.
There you
go.
Pointing more towards.
Perfect.
Chase tells me I tend to mumble, so I need to not do that.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's
it.
Keep it down. That's good. That's good. Right there. Right there. Right there.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to speak up a little
We
too.
are man, we
Let
are
me just get
here.
it closer before we start.
Okay.
We just started.
Orvain tells me I tend to mumble too, but I think it's just because he can't hear as well. That's what I say.
He says I
definitely
start
what
at a
you
normal volume, and he says it
just
goes like
goes down.
this, and he's like, I didn't
It
hear
just
the
goes
last
down.
5 words.
That's what Orvain says.
Well, for whoever is watching the podcast, this is a beautiful view of
Oh
Ryan's.
my gosh.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. You're welcome if you're watching this podcast. You are welcome. So,
Whether you wanted it or not.
whether you wanted it or not, you're welcome. Man, we are here to talk about.
Sorry, the last podcast. The dog situation.
Oh yes. We talked about man thongs
that.
on the last podcast, and that is it's very exciting. So I hope you heard it if you are listening to this podcast. Man, we are here to talk about a very popular thing that's happening. Not popular in it's a fad, but I think reality is hitting, and deconstruction is happening, and deconstruction specifically in our faith. And UCity is a church that hopefully we try to do our best to welcome that, to have patience with people walking through that, because in some form, shape, we all do it. And deconstruction, which is what I'm learning, is a challenge of worldview, of your worldview. So I think it's construction is your worldview growing up as you are growing up in age, like what you see, what you feel like, and your view on the world. And then something may happen, and you realize that what you thought is not the case, and so that is called deconstruction. And then some people stay there, and some people go to reconstruction, which I've learned is parallel with construction, because you somehow have this childlike energy and viewpoint again. And so as it relates to faith, that is what we are talking about. And so I'm just gonna put it out there. Have you all deconstructed? And what was that like? So, Maria?
Oh, I'm going first? I thought our guest
Yes,
was first.
just so we don't have a lot of dead air,
Okay. The answer to your question is yes. I definitely deconstructed. It happened in 2020 when, I mean, COVID just caused a lot of things, quarantine and stuff like that. But really, deconstruction for me was throwing everything that I had been taught, experienced, learned about what it meant to follow Jesus, like tossed it all on the table and sorted through it one thing at a time. For me, it was finding the distinction between what I had learned from a person, a podcast, a sermon, versus what was in the Bible. And I was really hurting. It was really hard and it was long. And I think that if it wasn't for me coming out of that directly into call at UCity, I'm not sure I would have ended up back at church. Because UCity does have a call to be a safe space, multi-ethnic, vulnerable. And so there was safe ground there. And if I had plugged directly only back into where I was before, I'm not sure I would have felt comfortable. So there's a lot more in there, but that's my Cliff Notes version. Do you know what Cliff Notes are, Ryan?
Yeah. How do you think I got through grade school?
Okay. Just checking.
But that's a point, because I have also recently learned is that when you have reconstructed, you are stronger in your faith, but it's not contingent upon other people or primarily church functions, but more so an independent relationship with God. It just gets stuff out the way, so that's what I also learned. So it sounds, that sounds about right. Yeah.
I'd say my experience was similar, except it was early on in life. And I think similar to a lot of people, it's like whenever you leave the environment that you're in. So for me, it was college. And just like once I left the environment I was in, it was all the questions of like, is this real? What I taught, is this true? And breaking down all of that. And literally spending hours and hours like studying the Bible. I failed my sports medicine class because I was studying the Bible instead of my
and God,
it was an 8 a.m. class, so it's like,
and God was pleased. God was like, if you fail a class because of me,
okay, we'll roll with it.
So
But
you
yeah.
don't know what Cliff Notes are then?
Apparently not, or they didn't have it for sports medicine at the time
Fair.
that I could find.
Right. Because you looked.
Yeah, I did. Indeed.
So for me, I think there's different things you can deconstruct. You don't have to deconstruct it all at once. But for me, I think it was eventually things when you're doing it the wrong way and you're not really trusting God, like you realize at some point, like, okay, I can keep trying this, but it's not going to work. And finally it was like, okay, this isn't working. And to unpack that and deconstruct took a lot of sacrifice and isolation. And with that plummets you even further down into just, again, when you're breaking everything away, I mean, it feels like, you're hitting rock bottom kind of thing.
It does feel like that.
And yeah, and I wouldn't say at the beginning, but once you start isolating from all these things and you're really separating, then it's, now you have nothing, and then you can, you rebuild it with God. But I would say that, yeah, for me, that was, I don't know, probably a couple years before I found UCity.
What were you deconstructing? Did you say what you were deconstructing?
No, I guess not. I guess I don't know. Probably, I mean, God would probably be a big part of it. There's probably other parts of like personal life that comes with that, but God is probably the number one thing. Because I was trying, after college, like I was trying to get back into what I had done previous to that growing up, and it wasn't working. And it just wasn't working, and I had to really deconstruct that.
Was it
what I learned?
Intentional isolation, or
Yes. And it sucked. but intentional for sure. It's just because the people around me didn't have the answers, and I knew they didn't have the answers.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yep.
If it's around people that can make it worse,
Yeah.
more painful.
And I also feel like there's a difference whenever you do intentionally isolate versus when God just isolates you and it feels like you're being pulled out. Versus anyway, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine was kind of is. I think I may have experienced some of that this year. But I remember shortly after I flunked out of college, I like asked God.
Was this the first time or the second time?
That's the great part of having your sister on the podcast.
Second.
Just get
Maybe the first.
the
I
info.
feel like if you flunk out of college once, they don't.
Sure, you can.
You've been
No, two?
flagged.
Oh, you can do two?
Chantel was counting. So
Okay. Well, guys, maybe second time. But
Apparently, Cliff Notes don't actually work.
that's right.
I
And we're talking about it in a book.
yeah. Well, it's called laziness. But I asked God, and I can share the long version of the story. But I asked God, is this all of who He is? I'm like, man, if this is all you are, then what? Then like, I have no hope, because if this all you can do, if this all that you are, then like, man, this life is going to be really hard, you know. And I felt like God was just like, thank you for asking. And like He showed me immediately. It was like just so many things where I was looking at, my worldview changed immediately. Like it was more of an immediate process. And then I speak to this year, I think that I kind of had a deconstructing thing in my faith of like what does it mean to suffer, I guess, and what does it mean to I don't know. I see God differently, but He broke me like all the way down through like anxiousness and through depression and like all of that. And so, I think it's still kind of still happening. So, but for you and Allie, this is like really one of the reasons why you are here, because of your like incredible journey. That I'm thankful that we got to sit with you in, and thank you for allowing us just to do that.
Thank y'all for being people that will sit in a season like that with you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really.
So what was deconstruction like for you?
It's kind of funny because if you had asked before, I would have said, oh, this started like however long ago that cohort was. What it was that? 2 years?
Was it 2.5? It was like 2.5.
Something. Cole was about, I want to say 7 or 8 months old. So it was getting close to 2 years ago. But I actually, within the last couple months, found some old journals of mine from like college years. So like 2013, 2014. And I used my journals as like basically letters of prayer to God. And reading them now, I could see it like between the lines. But at that time, I was not at a place where I could just say, hey, I have questions, or I'm struggling. And it was like I could see the mental gymnastics I was doing with myself to like convince myself not to question or have doubt. So it was kind of this like, oh, this has actually been bubbling for a really long time. But the catalyst, I guess, was when I had our first son, and I just had a moment where I was looking at him and I was like, everything I knew about, see, it's going to start, just pretend it's not happening. Everything I knew about God at that point was I knew people that would tell me that this pure, precious child was already a sinner. And it just didn't feel right. And it was the first time, obviously, I had been in a role of parent. So I could, to some degree, understand the other side of like a parent-child relationship. And if God is our Father, I just had this question of all these things that I have come to know about you or feel about you and fear about you, that's not what I want this child to feel from me. And if I didn't want my human child with my limited, understanding to experience that, then it just didn't make sense to me that God would be that way. And so it just basically all came crashing down very like unwillingly. And I happened to be at cohort when I feel like it really came to a head, because there was a couple months where I was really just trying to like push through and kind of get past the feelings. But then I think being in a setting where we were very intentionally talking about things and having questions, I realized I don't think this is going away anytime soon. So at that point, I just was like, I need to like step away. I didn't go to church for a long time. I didn't want to talk to anybody about it for a long time. And I hit a point where I was kind of prepared to just let it go totally. And it was, I think, the first time I had ever even like allowed myself to think that it was possible, because it's for so long it's like, no, this is the way. But once I gave myself permission to have the possibility of like, you don't have to be a believer if you really aren't there. Like, if you're really holding up the mirror and asking yourself, do I believe these things? The answer might possibly be no. It was like simultaneously freeing and so terrifying, because that's all I had ever known. And I mean, we had a whole moment where I felt like I needed to almost like confess to Chase how I was feeling, and he is amazing. So obviously he was incredibly supportive, and his exact words were, I would never ask you to live like pretending you believed something or just nodding along. Like, that's not a hell that I would wish on anyone. So I want you to explore this, and I want you to like, just dive into this season. But I was, there are marriages that don't survive these kinds of questions. And so it just, to make a very complex thing kind of wrapped up, there was just a period where it felt like it uprooted everything, and we're on a very different place with it now. But yeah, it was a little rough there for about a year. And then after a year of being like mad and in the grieving phase and basically looking at every little thing and being like, no, I don't think I agree with that. I don't think I agree with that either. Maybe I agree with 2% of that. I'll hold on to that tiny thing. I ended up finding and working with a deconstruction coach that I didn't even know existed, but ended up being super helpful. And that really helped me get back to a place of like, okay, I don't want to just stay in this like angry looking at the pieces anymore. I want to kind of do something and maybe make something. And so I'd say now it feels weird to say, but I almost feel like I'm just starting my actual faith after I don't even know how long of what I thought was a faith, but I don't think it really was, honestly.
Wow.
So yeah, sorry, that was a long.
I just want to say how unfair it is for you to ask for a pregnant woman to ignore tears. Okay, so I'm trying really hard not to cry over here. I just want to let you know because you're my friend.
I love you.
Can I ask? Well, I want to give definition just because you referred to cohort, and that's something that we do at UCity. It's called our growth cohort, and it really is kind of like an individual spiritual retreat for people to enter in, explore their spiritual gifts. It's a day and a half. Yours was 3 weeks. We did it.
Yeah.
We do it a little
After
bit
service.
different now.
Yeah.
But I wanted to explain that because it really was an example of you making a choice. At that time, you were coming to church, and you were like, okay, I'm going to try to dig in here. And you came to cohort. But Terrell and I had the honor to watch you struggle at that cohort, and it was like a fork in the road, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something, and then I'm going to ask for you to explain what that's like, because I've watched people be at that fork in the road, and they don't have the option of having still people loving them in a church community, because that's the church community that is hurt, that has really caused some of it and hurting some of it. And so I just want, I would like for you to address that part, but then also, Allie, just tell you the courage that you had to pursue, to let it crumble, to watch it crumble instead of keep fighting through. And I love that you gave the example of Cole, because having kids or having people that you want differently really is the motivator a lot of the times for getting it right and not keeping the same. So can you address that well, first of all, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, because I'm kind of putting words to it.
No.
But what was that like? And if you can speak to other people that might be finding themselves at that same fork in the road right now.
Yeah. The first part you were talking about being in the church setting and it happened.
Yeah,
Sorry.
like you're in there's a fork of, you're like, I'm either going to let this thing unravel and see what happens, or I'm going to stick and I'm going to keep faking it or hurting where I am silently or sometimes angrily, bitterly.
Yes. I almost think I hit a point where I didn't have a choice anymore, because even if I wanted to kind of keep telling myself, like, at the time I hadn't reread those journals, but now, like, I'm thinking even how I would talk myself out of questions or doubt in those journals I found. I think I had hit a point where I was like, I don't have anything else to tell myself that's going to make this feeling go away. And it's just going to be like there. And I think maybe like cohort specifically, it was almost like we were talking about, like, we were diving into specific passages and we were talking about questions, and I think it scared me how much came up for me. And I think that's why I had hit that point of like, I can't fight this anymore. It almost felt like you're kind of trying to hold back a dam that's about to burst, and it just at some point is gonna burst. And that's the interesting part about it, because I feel like I've seen people say it's like this trend, deconstruction's like this trendy thing that people are doing because they just want to sin, or they just want to like not be obedient or whatever. And at least the people I've met and the people who have gone through it, and I don't think I've ever talked to someone who's gone through it like willingly or like wanted to go through it or enjoyed going through it. So it definitely felt how you described, honestly, like a rock bottom. I'm just here and like all the pieces are around me, and you kind of have to give yourself that beat of like, before I try to do anything with this stuff, I might need to just like sit here and kind of just grieve what I thought was a safe thing, and it turned out not to be.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, man, that's amazing. I remember sitting, you like allowed me just visit you to talk,
Yeah.
and I remember maybe the first sentence we started talking, you started getting upset.
I feel
not
so
at
bad.
me,
You were
but-
still, you came when I was still in that, like, maybe still a little angry phase.
Oh, yeah.
Not at the church,
Yeah.
not at UCity,
Yeah.
the church, but the church
big
in
C
general.
The church in
Yeah.
general.
And
yeah.
I felt so bad because
Mhm.
you were so kind, like, hey, you know, like, share your thoughts. And I was just like,
yeah.
so
Yeah,
many
shut up.
things,
F this, F you.
Yeah.
so many
Uh-huh.
things came out.
Uh-huh.
And you were so great, like, keep it coming.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
But oh gosh, yeah, I was like, okay.
Can we say a couple of those things? Like, what are they? Like, giving more
trying to
specifics.
remember.
Oh
to-
yeah, the F word or
Well, I mean,
No,
if that's
no.
included.
I can spell it for you.
I
Go ahead,
think
Ryan. Let's
Yeah.
hear it.
No, we might get taken down.
If you correct me if I'm misremembering, but I remember we were talking about what were some things that like the church could be doing for people who are in a place like that, and
Mhm,
like
yeah.
what are things that maybe are well intended but not are well intended but not helpful, or
Yeah.
Just
Should I
wanted
wait
to
for
be
a
a
second?
part.
There's somebody at the door.
Okay, I'm just saying. You got a white
Oh.
delivery drop off right now. White.
Is it something you
Now,
It's yours.
No.
It's your what?
I think she said wine.
There was
Wine?
a white
Oh.
guy just dropping off, and I'm using color
Okay.
specifically
that's right.
because
multi-ethnic church.
now it could be because he wasn't wearing glasses.
Okay.
Also, but there was a white guy not wearing glasses. Your dog started going crazy.
Mm.
Now there was a package delivered about 10 minutes ago. Black guy wearing glasses didn't bark at all.
Yeah. Less intimidating. A white guy with glasses maybe means less intimidating.
It could have been the glasses. Could have been the glasses.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But there's definitely some foul play happening. Gracie.
Okay, sorry.
Crazy is our podcast.
Mm.
What did
The
you
mascot? Is
mascot?
Yeah.
That's rough.
I love it.
Mascot of the podcast.
That's not a good thing. Oh.
Maria said, "Yeah, can't do that. Nothing lasts
No.
forever."
And I always said that I would bring my dog over here, which is
Did you ever have like a
50-pound
purchase that
pit
tricked
bull.
you? Like you thought you were
Oh.
getting one thing and then you got another thing?
Yes.
That's Gracie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Oh.
Well,
Oh.
I said that I would bring my 50-pound pit bull over here and have them play, but
But
my pit
Terrell
bull
has-
doesn't like other dogs,
She's
so
looking over here like
I
I
would
did it. I was
love for
expecting
them to
it.
play.
But Terrell has said that she hates black people, so
Yes.
that's what I'm trying to disprove
I-
right now.
and I'm
While Ryan
standing
is
on it.
talking about who was delivering the
I'm
package
s-
because it's not true.
Yeah.
She's just sometimes a good judge. of
I'm
character.
standing on it.
Like there was no other
Wait, she
difference.
barked at me.
Wow.
She didn't.
Wow.
She
Yes, she
didn't.
When I
did.
first.
Yes,
The
she did.
octave to which
Yeah.
she barked
Yes, she
at you
did.
was
And
way
you know-
lower
Oh,
than the
okay.
octave.
She
Yeah.
was just saying hi.
Yes.
That I guess.
Got it. We'll roll with it.
It's really more a man versus woman thing, just so that you know. She
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
like men.
Okay.
Because that was a woman, by the way, Ryan. That was not a man.
Oh, that was a woman.
Yes, that was a woman.
Oh man, how deceiving things can be. I actually only saw the arm.
What?
Wait, how
And
did
I
you
said,
understand
"Why
saw the
anything?
arm
It
and
was a
just-
man
oh,
or a woman
that's a
by the
man.
arm?
That's a man arm.
Person.
Yeah.
Wait, that's
Did
so
you also
funny.
assess what kind of food they ate by their arm?
Okay, my bad. You know, there's probably some kind of facts out there that I feel like most delivery people that deliver to my house. No.
Oh, you just thought because it was a delivery person, it was a man.
Well, it is the title. You know,
That's
to be
another
fair,
podcast.
To be
Oh,
fair,
honey.
to be fair, I grew up and they were called delivery man.
Man or men?
Delivery man.
Mm.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just
Okay.
making stuff up.
Okay, we were talking about
question.
Allie saying the F word to Terrell at her
Yes.
house.
Well, she
That's
didn't
where
say
we
it.
are.
Let me be. She was sweet. Let me be. I felt like she maybe wanted to say it, but she did not.
Terrell's
But
so pure, he can't hear those words.
the question was like, what were some of those things?
Yeah.
And I did ask what I was speaking specifically to UCity
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that we can do better to partner with you in this journey.
Oh yeah. And then I think all my like previous stuff was
Yeah.
like coming out when
Mhm.
I answered it too. But I think with that one, it's particular. We were talking about like, even when you walk through the doors, like, are you being bombarded versus just given space, like to walk in, or like welcomed, but not like, hey, you're new, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't even remember the other stuff that came up. It just
Well, I just feel like it
opened a
shot
can of
out so
worms.
fast that
It was
that,
a
you
can of
were-
worms.
yeah, it
and
was
just
like,
like
whoa.
all these things.
I bet you could just say, okay, what made you the angriest about church during that season?
Oh gosh.
There you go.
That's a good
Oh,
question.
that is a really good question.
Not
Ooh.
UCity. Just, I mean,
Yeah,
Well,
no,
it could've
no.
been-
obviously.
Obviously not UCity,
Obviously.
but UCity maybe, you know.
Yes.
It
yeah,
was.
Yep.
Well, the interesting part was it's like, because I didn't go to any church for a long time, but it was always like if I was gonna go, which obviously now I've been coming back more. Like UCity wasn't ever the problem. It was like any building, any person, even like well-intended, I just like could not handle any conversation or like anything. I'm trying to know what would make. Okay, I've already got it. It's the, well, but that was people that hurt you, not God, with no intention to like do anything to like fix it. Because I guess the follow-up question that I would have for them is, that's right. So I guess what are you doing about the fact that people are actively hurting people and driving them away from the church? And it just, because it just felt very dismissive if people would just be like, well, but that, you know, you just have to try another place. You just have to keep going. And, you know, it's never going to be perfect. Humans are imperfect. And like, I'm very well aware of that. It's not a lack of leaving room for that. It's that this is obviously such a bigger issue that I think is just ingrained in how most of the American church has been set up, especially the evangelical world of it. That obviously it's enough of an issue that there are so many people leaving. So at what point do we ask ourselves, what can we be doing different? Like you said, he's been asking, you know? Yeah.
And because the church gets so mad about so much sinfulness,
That,
no one's
yes.
talking about that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, well, what if it's part of our own sinfulness that's kind of like the more underlying, more acceptable things that are the things that are driving the people away? Don't get me started, Allie.
No, go
That's
ahead.
a
Go
whole
ahead.
other. No, that was real because I remember. I don't remember specifics because there are so many, but there were like random things that would pop up during the time, like where I was still kind of going through the anger phase, and it would be like, oh, this pastor, you know, was found out to be doing this terrible thing, or this church has found out to be embezzling this and that, and it would just make me so mad to see the way that the church responded. And it's like giving so much grace for these people that are, some of it was really, really awful stuff. But then meanwhile, I'm like, someone in your congregation is struggling with XYZ and you like shun them, and it just, yeah.
Yeah, unrighteousness is like, no, but self-righteousness is like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It looks kind of holy.
It's the above reproach idea. And I am like, I don't know if it's that you are above reproach, but maybe you should try to be, just maybe be a little more above reproach. Or I don't know. Like, it doesn't mean you're immune from consequences, or like,
Well, you can't throw away all the 50,000 love verses
yes,
when you're talking about being about above reproach.
yes, it's
Which
just,
is one verse,
yeah,
by the way.
yes, that's a whole, yeah. It's
I think that, like, going back to, you know, that I think, you know, asking you that question of what can a UCity, how can UCity partner, and it was like, yeah, okay, well, this and that, and the not bombarding you, you know, whenever you come to church and all the things, and essentially not being fake, right?
I think everything had that.
Yeah, just
theme,
happy,
I think.
which
Yeah.
I'm a 7, so like, yeah, that's me. I'm like happy, you know, but that's what you said. But and I remember even at UCity, like
Yeah,
like
Ryan.
Ryan is
Sorry, he's on
Ryan
the
is 7
sevens
too.
over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go, Ryan. But I think, you know, even whenever you would come and you would sit. Oh yeah, it's a cat.
The cat.
I was going to
Sorry, we
warn you.
like the
I was
cat.
going to warn you.
We
And
like the
I
cat.
feel like it is coming. That's about to
She
come
has
to
something
you.
to say.
Do
She
I need to
deconstructed
move?
too. That's why.
Oh, she
She's
can be.
pretty.
Do I need to move? Is
No,
this
no,
a
she's
spot?
she's a nice cat.
Yes, he's a nice cat.
But is she gonna like
But she,
Jump
I,
on you?
up here?
I think
No.
that she jump up here.
She might jump on the
That would
back,
freak
but
you
she
out?
won't jump
Don't.
on you.
Yeah.
Would that freak you out?
Yeah.
All right,
I'll
knock
warn
her
you
off
if it's
she
going to
jumps
happen
in
while
front
it's happening.
Yeah.
Does that not reassure
put
you?
my
all
Oh,
at
she
all?
she
She's
said
leaving.
I'll give some space.
She's leaving.
Oh, there you go. She's
She
right
said
giving us
I
safe
respect it.
space.
But and I remember seeing you like slide in to church.
Yeah.
And even so whenever you would slide in, you would like do your own thing, like in the back, be in your own world. But I started noticing like you would come and then you would stand and then somehow a chair would end up back there and then you would sit down on a bench.
Yeah.
And you would sit down on a bench
Yeah.
in the very back against the
She
wall.
was allowed to say
And so
something.
and so what I started doing is I started noticing you doing that. And I don't know if you noticed, but like I just started putting
Now
2
there's
chairs
chairs.
back there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if like Allie comes,
That meant a lot. Yeah.
I want her to feel safe.
yeah.
Like even so I just started putting 2 chairs for you and Chase back there.
yeah.
Just in case you slid in, just sat down, then you would disappear, you know.
I
So-
can't believe I've never said to you directly how much I noticed that, and that meant a lot, because I remember saying to Chase once I noticed it a few times, I was like, there's not a lot of churches that would do that and set that up for you. I feel like you'd kind of be more encouraged to, just get in the main section. But
Mhm.
it was a personal reason of like, I needed to not do anything that would be almost like viewed by anyone else, because so much of everything that I thought I believed was a lot based on what other people thought and saw. And it was very like, okay, I'm going to raise my hand at this point because that's when everyone does. And it, like, I have yet to even get to a place where I can like pray out loud comfortably, because I find myself overthinking the fact that other people can hear it. And at least for now, it needs to just be internal, like between me and God. And so that's one of the things was, okay, if I'm going to go, I want to maybe not be seen by anybody, so that there's no like influence to act a certain way or do anything, or honestly even sit while everyone else is standing. Like even just that.
Yep.
It sounds small and kind of silly, but it's like those little things that's kind of breaking off it's not about like other people and what they can see you doing. Like it has the internal relationship is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
keep.
Have
moving.
you
Yeah.
heard of what's it called? A rage room or something? Room where you
Where you
break
go and, like,
break stuff?
Yeah.
Like what if a church had that for people who are deconstructing and the angry face, and it's like worship is going on and all
And
this
you're just
stuff,
getting a
but
break.
you have a bat and just start like breaking stuff.
I
You
could
know?
see that
Right.
being helpful for a lot of things, because how
Ryan,
many
can you add that to your progression?
like I think how many people are walking in. I think because this was one of the things that came up when we were talking about like the experience of church for people walking in. It doesn't even have to be deconstruction. What if someone just went through something tragic or awful and they're, just trying to come through those doors, and then, it can be really hard to be met with the energy of like, it's a great Sunday. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not feeling that,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
so I could see that being helpful
Yeah.
for a lot
Yeah.
of different experiences,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a brilliant idea that we have one of those rooms that I would be in it all the time breaking stuff. Probably.
We're in a
too.
school now. Which
Except-
classroom do you think? they'll
Yeah, I
let us-
know.
Except you have to preach.
Well, I know, but sometimes I don't feel like preaching and I'm upset.
So
So
you're
instead
gonna
of-
Lead by
preach from
example
the
and
rage
Lead by
room.
example.
Preach
Like,
from the rage room.
Just
Chantel is having questions because we don't let the worship team sit back there anymore in those rows.
Oh, really?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
I honestly thought that you were back there because we've had conversations about life, anxiety, mom stuff, but not about deconstructing. So I'm really appreciative of this conversation. But I really thought you were sitting back there because you had a new baby.
I kind of, I had that
"Whenever I
as
need to
like
dip out."
a,
So good.
if anyone asks, that was going to be the reason I would give is
Yeah.
like, oh, in case Cole needs me from nursery, or like sometimes I would just pull him in with me of like, oh, I got the baby.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I guess.
Yeah.
Baby's
No,
always
I
a good
can't.
excuse.
Yes.
For getting out of everything.
Yeah, there's
Like,
social
oh, I gotta
barrier.
go.
There's
Yep.
social
Hello?
barriers.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 1, 2, 3.
Sunday dinners.
Hey.